and we're going to get into this big time, but when you believe that you're a worthless sack of garbage and you feel crappy about yourself all the time, like, do you think that you're going to have an easier time overcoming porn or a more difficult time? Like, the answer is obvious. Yet we still beat ourselves to death with the shame stick. And why do we do it? It really is just madness, right? But again, today we're talking about shame and worthiness. We're talking about guilt versus shame. What's the difference? And we're also talking about our deeper internal belief structures, okay? And this cycle of shame that we get caught up in that just keeps us going back to pornography. You know, we oftentimes, when we're operating from a shame-based narrative, we are using a lot of willpower, control, and a lot of resistance. And guys, any type of resistance in your body, in your mind, in your soul, in your spirit is just going to make life harder for you. Okay. Now, I get why we do it, and we're going to talk about this. So we don't want to get into justification and think, well, I can just look at all the porn I want, so I've got to control this behavior. We're going to talk about that and how and why that does not work and what you should be doing instead. So let's jump right in. First off, what is the difference between guilt and shame? We often lump those two together, but I really want you to separate those out. They're two completely different things. They're very similar, yes, and they can go hand in hand with one another, but they're very different. And let me explain what the differences are. So guilt is saying that I did something bad or I did a bad thing. I made the wrong choice and that my actions do not align with my values. Okay. That does not go along with the type of person that I want to be. And so therefore I should change something. I should do something different next time. Right? You're not taking it personal. You don't feel good about it. So you're like, definitely not going to do that next time. And you change your behavior. Okay. Guilt is a very good thing. Now, shame, on the other hand, can be very destructive because what shame is saying is I am bad. Like fundamentally, there's something wrong with me. I am broken. I'm worthless. I'm a terrible human being. Not very helpful, especially when you're trying to change an entrenched habit. Yeah. So shame also is undismissed guilt. So when guilt comes in and you get this message saying, crap, I should not have done that. I should do something different next time. You say, okay, awesome. Message received. See you later, guilt. You know, and it may come up again and you just pay attention to it. You don't let it just fester into shame. You just say, oh, yeah, dang, yeah, that stings, man. Felt pretty bad about that. It's a little bit embarrassing, but you know what? Learn and move on. Right? So it stays in that guilt realm and you just keep thanking it for coming to you. Thank you for the message. It's been received. Now you can go away. Right? And you dismiss it. You don't try to force it away. You don't fight it away. But you just thank it for being there and let it go. Now, if you do not dismiss that guilt and you let the emotions just continue to spiral up, then it will become shame. Yeah. And shame, it's often used as a short-term control-based motivator. And we use it as the stick, right, to whip ourselves into shape. And we think we need it to survive because we don't know how to motivate ourselves otherwise. So we hold on to this toxicity. But then, guys, that's driven by this faulty identity that you're bad. And over time, your actions will always align with what you believe to be true about yourself. So if you're like, man, I'm a terrible, worthless sack of garbage and I just like porn, but then you use that same emotion to keep yourself from viewing porn, you can see the madness in that. Right. And so when you're using that shame as a motivator, the results are very short lived. When you're using control based motivators that are usually externally driven from messages you've received or what have you, your spouse is upset at you or whatever, right? Your results are very short lived. So shame-based messages, you've received many of them throughout your life, yeah? Especially as men, well, women for sure. I mean, probably even worse, but shame-based messages, they've driven home a false identity for you. Maybe you made mistakes, maybe you got caught looking at pornography as a child or masturbating or whatever, and you just got a pile of shame heaped onto you. Maybe you grew up in a more conservative home or a Christian-based home, but maybe you didn't at all. And in fact, maybe you receive shame-based messages from men if you didn't view pornography. I have clients like that as well. They grew up in a culture that was like, this is what men do, and you better do it with us. In fact, fathers, sharing and introducing pornography to their children. And what messages did you receive from that? Like, this is how men are. And then if you try to think or believe differently, like, no, that doesn't resonate with me, I feel guilty about this behavior, and it's like, this doesn't work for me, well, then you feel shame for wanting to break out of that mold. So there's all kinds of different messages we receive around shame. I'm not going to go deep into that here because we could go all day just about that. But our beliefs around ourselves drives our thoughts. It drives the narrative that we have in our head. And the thoughts that we have in our minds drives our emotional state. Guys, your emotions are generated by your thoughts. I'm going to say that again. You need to understand this. Your emotions, anxiety, stress, overwhelm, right? Shame, etc., depression, like the list goes on. Your emotions are generated by your thoughts, positive emotions as well. So understanding that the thoughts that you entertain in your mind are absolutely mission critical to your success, because your thoughts generate your emotions, and your emotions, or energy in motion, drives your actions. Your actions then dictate the results that you obtain in your life. So if your results are not where you would like them to be, okay, yes, look at your actions, but that's where, all the self-help stuff in the world is always focused on your actions. Here's what you should do differently. And they miss the mark most of the time. Not all the time, but most of the time, because those actions are driven by your emotions. Your emotions are driven by your thoughts, and your thoughts are driven by your identity, what you believe deep down to be true about yourself. So you can see, we got to get to the roots. Yes, do we need to focus on, certain skills and behaviors that are going to help you win? Yes. But if we only focus on that, which is what like NoFap does, which is honestly a lot of the culture around 12-step and therapy often does, they're so behavioral focused and they don't get to the root of the identity piece, man, oh man, like you're going to continue to struggle. So let's think about this for a second. Some shame-inducing thoughts. I want you to really think about these and ask yourself the question of, do I entertain these types of thoughts? Because if you do, well, there's nothing wrong with you, okay? You're not broken. You're not fundamentally flawed. It's just data. It's for you to say, you know what? Yeah, I have some untamed thoughts here about myself. And you need to start challenging these thoughts and trying on new ones, which we'll talk about. But here's some thoughts that I want you to kind of make note of. Do I say these to myself? I'm such a screw up. Whew. That's a big one that I used to say to myself all the time. I'm never going to get this right. There's something wrong with me. No one else struggles with this like I do. That's a very isolating thought. I shouldn't be struggling with this, or I should be better. I should be stronger, and I'm not good enough. Okay, this list could go on for a mile, right? But we're going to leave it there. Do you talk to yourself like that? Because if you do, you're just driving home a faulty identity. Okay. So I just really want you to think about these things. I'm going to say them again. I'm such a screw up. I'm never going to get this right. There's something wrong with me. No one else struggles with this like I do. I shouldn't be struggling with this. I should be stronger. I'm not good enough. Do you entertain those thoughts in your mind on a regular basis? Again, you're driving home a false identity, a shame-based identity, and it is disempowering. As much as you think it might be helpful for you, and again, you're going to use that shame stick or that whip to whip you into shape and get you motivated to light a fire under your arse, it's not going to work. Maybe it will work right now in the short term for a day or 2 days or a week, but then you're going to be wondering why the heck you're looking at porn again, if that's where your motivation is coming from. Okay, you cannot resolve it with more shame. Let's talk about the shame cycle. So here's exactly why shame doesn't work to help you quit porn. Because using porn, it goes against your ideals or your morals. Right now, we all may have different moral upbringings, But what's uniting us here, whether you're Christian or not, okay, it doesn't matter. A lot of people are like, oh, well, it's just because you're Christian and you believe in God that you have a problem with porn because of all the shame around it and the conservative ideals. No, no. I have people that I work with that are Christian, that are not Christian, that are, here in America. I have clients in India that are Hindi. I mean, like all different kinds of religions, faiths, upbringings, people that are agnostic, that don't believe in God at all. What unites us together are the negative consequences that we've experienced as a result of using porn. Okay. So we are united in this. We know that it is not helpful for us. Now, if there are other people that are like, you know what, porn's the greatest thing, since whatever, since the internet. Okay, awesome, fine. Like, go ahead, enjoy it. That's your choice. That's fine. But for those of us that know it's breeding negative consequences in our lives, we're united in this. And you now have a commitment in your soul that's telling you this needs to change. Remember, that's the guilt talking. That's the voice of conscience speaking to you. And you should absolutely listen to it. Okay, forget about what the world is saying about all of this. You know it's not working for you, and you can own that, and you can stand tall with your shoulders back saying, yeah, this is what I want. I want to eliminate pornography. Okay, so shame cycle, right? Using pornography goes against now your ideals or your morals because you know it's not helpful for you in your life. Okay, so then when you view porn, you get these shame-inducing thoughts coming up, right? Something's wrong with me. I'm such a screw up. I'm never going to get this right. Okay, I should be stronger. That's a huge one. I should be stronger. Why did I give in so easily? God dang, freaking A, what's wrong with me? So then you feel shame, right? Remember, those thoughts are what produce the shame. If those thoughts did not exist in your mind, you would not feel shame. You would not feel shame. And I'm going to keep driving this point home. It's your thoughts that are generating it. And then when you feel that shame, you buffer that shame or escape that shame. You try to numb it, right? By doing what? By viewing more porn. Because all your brain knows is that viewing porn creates the anesthetic. It produces that temporary medication for the soul. You feel bad inside, and your brain's just been trained to say, well, dang, we know how to get pleasure. We know how to escape pain. We know how to quiet that narrative in your head. Let's look at more porn and let's masturbate for as long as we can to avoid it as long as possible. Your brain is just trying to help you. Your brain doesn't care or doesn't attach to the fact that the relief is temporary. All it knows is that it's producing relief. And that was your primary coping mechanism, probably starting at a very young age. And it's what you used to escape that. Okay, you're just going back to your conditioning, to your training. You weren't given the skills and tools to be able to deal with shame or, foster a healthy identity as a child. You just weren't. And so now you're going into adulthood without the skills that you need to actually be a functional adult. And we're going to talk more about that in just a second. But this is the shame cycle that we get caught in. Viewing porn goes against our ideals. It then generates these thoughts, which just generates feelings of shame, which then reinforces using pornography because we don't know what else to do about it. We don't know how to escape that shame cycle. So we just stay stuck in it. Well, it just feeds it, right? And then we start getting more and more consequences in our lives. Now, here's a big reason why we don't want to let go of shame. We're terrified to let go of shame. And there's a few of you that have jumped into the chat. So let me know in the chat if you can hear me okay. And I hope that this conversation is helpful for you. As we move forward, if you have any questions, drop them in the chat. I'll take a few minutes at the end to answer those questions. Awesome, Steven. It's good to see you. Yeah, anyone that has any questions, drop them in the chat. Or again, after this video, if you're watching the replay, let me know in the chat as well, and we'll get you a response. Okay, so here's why we don't want to let go of shame. Okay, it is because of fear of justification. We don't know how to motivate ourselves without the shame. Shame or anxiety, right, has been our primary motivator. And so we're terrified to let go of it, even though it's maladaptive and it doesn't work long term and it hasn't actually produced the results that we want. We know it's produced temporary results, and we don't have any evidence yet of something producing long term results. So we're going to hold on to that temporary motivator like crazy, right? With a death grip. But again, we have to learn to let go of it. Otherwise, we're never going to change long term. And I understand that fear of, man, if I let go of this feeling bad, then I'm just going to go and look at porn. But guys, that's what you're already doing. That's what you're already doing. Right? There's just a delay between feeling bad and looking at porn. Like if you have a period of time of willpower between, like you might feel better for a while. Like you go and purge your internet history. You go and like, make all these commitments. You get plugged back in. Like, all right, well, I feel really crappy, so I'm going to push really hard to try to fix things. Or like, you get caught by your spouse. You tell the truth of everything, and then all of a sudden it's out in the open and you feel like this freedom for a while. Well, by holding on to that shame, it's just a matter of time till that pornography comes right back. All of a sudden you start feeling better, you start doing better. Then your brain is like, well, cool, we got this porn thing here still. Or maybe you have a bad day and you give back into the pornography. It just keeps you on that loop. So we have to unplug from it because you're already using it as a justification to view pornography. Yeah. So let go of this idea that if you get rid of the shame, that you're just going to go on a bender and watch porn forever. Now, I would rather you actually lean towards justification, because we can deal with that. We can face that sucker, than staying stuck in the shame loop, because for sure the shame loop is not going to work. And yeah, justification doesn't work either. But what we have to do is replace shame and replace justification with worthiness. And here's the thing. The world has a performance-based view on worthiness. And that's patently false. Like, it should not be as such. Worthiness is an emotion. What's the number one thing people say when there's like a worthiness issue? They say, I don't feel worthy. Worthiness is an emotion, and feeling worthy feels good. It feels good. And it's very, very healing to the identity, and it nourishes us and it eliminates shame. Okay. And here's the truth is you are worthy all of the time. You don't need to earn worthiness. As a human being, you are worthy of and capable of change at any time in your life. You do not need to perform a certain way to then earn the right to be free from porn, to be a better husband, to have a successful company or anything like that. You're already worthy of that. Now, your actions may not be in alignment with those outcomes in your life. Okay. That's a totally different thing. But you are worthy of those things. I hope that makes sense. And I hope that you let that really drive home and sink into your heart. You are 100% worthy all of the time. You have not yet earned your outcomes through your actions being in alignment with those outcomes, but you're worthy of them always. And remember, worthiness comes from your thoughts. If thoughts generate our emotions, and worthiness is an emotion, you can generate the feeling of worthiness through your thoughts. And as you generate that emotion, it will change your actions. Okay. Now, if you believe that you are worthy, if you start to believe this, and it doesn't mean it's just going to like hard swing that way. Like, you have to start trying on some of these thoughts, which we're going to talk about in just a second, and nurturing this feeling of worthiness, let it build, right? You will begin to live as such. Your actions will change. Your actions will then be more in alignment with that belief of worthiness, that I can change. Okay. I'm not a worthless piece of garbage. I made a mistake. So be it. So what? I'm going to get back up and try again. I can do this. So here are some thoughts or like affirmations that you can try on. Okay. Around worthiness. I am 100% worthy today, and nothing can change that. Okay. Remember, if you go and look at porn, okay, well, your actions are just still a little bit out of alignment with the outcomes you desire in your life. It does not change your worthiness. It's just going to delay your desired outcomes. So no matter what you do, you're 100% worthy. Start telling yourself that, because it's going to help you get back up. I'm currently struggling with porn, and that's okay. I'm working on it. I'm proud of the progress I'm making. I'm showing up for myself. I've got my back. Overcoming porn will leave me better off than if I never struggled with it at all. And I can do this. Okay, again, we could go on for a list a mile long about different thoughts, but those are some that you can try on now. Now, let's talk for a second about overcoming porn, leaving you better off. I know that sounds like a crazy idea to many, many people. That would have sounded crazy to me as well. But guys, overcoming pornography is a skill set. And if you didn't struggle with porn, you'd be struggling with something else. And many people do. Whether it be alcohol, drugs, prescription medications, just overusing caffeine, binge watching Netflix, overeating. Like, there's all kinds of behaviors that we exhibit. And if you can overcome pornography, you can absolutely overcome them all. And you will understand people in a way that you never thought was possible. And your level of empathy, your ability to have empathy for others, will exponentially increase, and it will bless your life tremendously. And not only that, for those of you that are parents or desire to be parents someday, you will then have the skills to be able to teach your children how to cope with their own difficult reality and to step into adulthood with actual skills to be able to face that reality. And that's a very, very powerful thing. So you can literally be better off having struggled with this. I promise that is true. So remember, thoughts generate emotions. Emotions then drive your actions, and your actions dictate your results in your life. So if you want to change your results, you need to take a step further back than just behavioral change or cracking a whip of shame, because it will not and cannot change your identity. It is not possible. If you want to change your results, yes, you got to change your actions, but you do that by practicing thoughts that generate empowering emotions. You don't need more motivation. Okay, if it's helpful to watch a motivational YouTube video or something like that, there's nothing wrong with that. But long-term, committed, and deep, lasting change comes from transforming your identity and a consistent practice on a daily basis of watching your thoughts and intentionally choosing thoughts that will drive the emotions that will empower you to take the necessary actions. Because there are days when you don't feel like it, but understanding that when you gain this skill set, you can literally motivate yourself to do anything because you know how. Motivation doesn't come out of thin air, it comes from within. And we can generate that ourselves. Okay, so what will help you, to kind of wrap up, what will help you get back up and take action better? Feelings of shame, beating yourself up, or feelings of worthiness? What do you think? Guys, a compulsive porn habit, it's just a weakness driven by a faulty identity and a lack of skills. That's it. And you can change it. It's 100% changeable. Now, that doesn't mean it's easy, but you can absolutely do it. So you just haven't mastered the skills yet of living a porn-free life, to live free of buffering and escaping your emotions. And you don't have the skills yet to live a shame-resilient life. But again, that can all be nurtured, and I promise you that that's possible. Cool. That is what I have for you today. I hope that this has been helpful. If there are any questions for those of you in attendance, let me know. Otherwise, we will go ahead and wrap up here. And then I will be posting this video either later today or tomorrow on YouTube and social media so that you can re-listen to this if this was helpful for you. Again, if you're watching the replay of this, let me know in the comments what your questions are or what your comments are, what your thoughts are about this. And if there's anyone that you know that this could help, could you please share? Could you share this with friends or people that you think it might be helpful for? Steven says, can you touch on the high highs and mitigating that? Could you give me a little bit more context there? around your question, just so I can get a better understanding? I just want to clarify. Yeah. So we get these high highs, we're really, really up. And then all of a sudden it's like the balloon pops, right? And it all just seems to like fizzle out and we don't really know why. And that can be really, really frustrating because it's times all this, like 1 second you feel like you're never going to look at pornography again. Like life is going really well. You're feeling really good. And this just has no place in my life. Like I'm never going back. And then like the next day, all of a sudden you're looking at porn. You're just like, what the heck? How does this happen? Well, we've talked about this like on our ascension calls with our clients quite a bit, and really those patterns of existence, how we go up and we come down, and there's always ups and downs. So if you zoom out and you see like the pattern of your life, if you're on the right path, like we should over time see like kind of an exponential growth curve as you build your skill set, et cetera, identity changes. But if you zoom in, we have all these ups and downs along the way, right? Peaks and valleys. And there are times where that peak is really, really high. But I say this all the time, like what goes up must come down. And so with that, for those listening, Stephen, I know that you understand this stuff, but for those that are listening, like it's normal to have a downward trend. There is always a downward trend, always. So I teach my guys to expect it, to be watching for it. So you're doing really, really well. Boom, you're up here on a peak. And remember that after the rise comes the fall. There's nothing wrong with you for that. It's just everything breathes in and everything breathes out. That's just how it goes. So when you start on that downward trend, don't resist it or try to escape it or shut it down. Accept it, breathe through it, and recognize that, okay, now during this time is when I really need nurturance. I need to take good care of myself. I need to process my emotions. I need to check in with what's going on with me. But because we were just on this peak, like oftentimes we get complacent and we think we should just be able to handle whatever comes next. And when we're feeling really good is when we usually stop doing all the things that got us feeling good to begin with. So then we go on that downward trend. So just remember that, like if you're going down that slope, don't judge it. Don't shame yourself for it. What goes up must come down. What breathes in must breathe out. That's all that's going on. And you just ask yourself the question of what can I do to really nurture myself right now? Now, then you have the high highs. I think that's the normal pattern of life. But then you have the really big ups and the really big downs. But guys, when you have a really, really high, oftentimes, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So when we feel a lot of emotions, whether positive or negative, there's a baggage that comes with that. There's a strain. There's a strain. That's a better way of putting it. There's like a price that we pay internally. So when things are really, really good, you may want to buffer the strain of that experience. Like it's very taxing to feel high amounts of positive emotion. Like you look at the scriptures even, and then people were so filled with joy that they completely collapse, right? That's like the downward response physically, like it just saps all their energy. So that same thing is going to happen for you. It's very taxing when we go through a lot of really difficult grief and pain. So we need to nurture. It's also very taxing when you go through a lot of elation and joy and goodness. That can be very invigorating too, but you still need to take care of yourself. Emotion is emotion, and powerful emotion is powerful emotion. So when you're on a very high, make note. Those are some of the times that I would give into pornography the most. I would feel really connected with my wife, and then I would go look at porn. Sometimes you have an emotional hangover or kind of a yo-yo effect, or you go into a situation where you feel more vulnerable, and then your psyche wants to recoil because maybe your beliefs have not yet fully caught up with the experience yet. So you have a really good experience, you feel great in the moment, and then the next day you feel this emotional hangover and whiplash because your identity is like, wait a second, That's not supposed to happen for us. Like, we're supposed to be bad and terrible. How is this good stuff happening in our life? Well, don't shut that down. Don't run from it. Just acknowledge it. Whoa, that's really interesting. Having these thoughts going through my mind. Don't judge it. Don't beat yourself up. Just accept it for what it is and say, I really got to take care of myself right now. And if this is a consistent pattern for you, like we talk about those rituals around this, if it's a consistent pattern to have these ups, the highs, and then you smash it back down again by viewing porn, well, just recognize that that's a pattern and you create a plan around it to nurture yourself when things are going good. Again, that is when we think we need the least amount of nurturing. It's when things are going well. But oftentimes, you need it just as much then as you do when things aren't going well. It's the consistent patterns that are going to really allow you to lock in long-term meaningful change. So I hope that helps. Does that make sense? Any other questions around that or anything else, guys? Guys, have an incredible day. And again, for those of you listening in, let me know in the comments what you thought. If you have anything you'd like to add or if you have any questions, and I will get back with you. And if you are wanting to be part of a community of men that are no longer doing this alone, that are rejecting all these false notions that the world decides to place on our shoulders and tie into our identities about ourselves, join the Porn Free Brotherhood. Those that are in attendance are already in there. But if you're listening to this after the fact and you want to be part of an empowering male community that will encourage you and give you actual skills and tools to be able to combat life, like, join the Brotherhood. The link will be around this video or down in the comments. Also, if you're wanting hands-on help, we have a separate community that we call Ascension, which is where, everything that we discussed today, I go way deeper on and give you the step-by-step roadmap to follow to be able to do it all, right? And I will guide you hands-on, and so will the other men that are working with me hands-on. We meet twice per week on Zoom. We talk face-to-face. We get to know each other. We're there for each other in our struggles, and you're able to ask for help all the time and get that hands-on help and guidance so that you can put this thing behind you and really live the life that you want to live. That's the thing about this, guys. This is just a barrier to you really living that life that you desire. Let's get it out of the way. That doesn't happen overnight. It requires a lot of practice. Like, we talked a lot about the skill set, right? Okay, you don't become a master overnight. It takes practice and consistency. And sometimes doing that on our own is very difficult because you can really get slapped across the face with some of these things in life, right? Whether it's our behaviors or other things that happen to us that we can't control. Having encouragement and support around you to help you keep getting back up over time is going to make all the difference for you. So just let me know if that's something that you're interested in. Otherwise, the Porn Free Brotherhood is completely free. There's free resources and things that you can do in there to really help you now. And you can interact with the community and get support as well. All right, that's it for today. Have an amazing rest of your day, and we will talk to y'all soon.